Welcome back to the Fox Robbins Business Show. Come on in and sit down for a minute. We're going to talk to you about small business. In fact, we talk anything and everything you ever wanted to know about small business.
Even stuff you didn't want to know.
Even things you didn't want to know.
But you better know.
And it's the Fox Robbins Business Show. And again, we're here to provide advice, help, direction, even a few answers, you know.
Yeah, once in a while.
Yeah, every once in a while. Yeah. And I'm the co-host, Bill Fox, but the other co-host, you got to pay attention to this guy because he's known as being provocative.
I am.
He's definitely engaging and double definitely entertaining. He's Coach Robbins.
Well, I like the engaging and entertaining part. I actually understood what that means.
And this is episode 2 of two episodes dealing with the subject of preparing a business model, what's called a business model, and as an essential step in starting up a new business, but also further down the line, an existing business can be changing direction,
should be
reorienting itself, or whatever the case might be, starting up a new division, getting into new products and markets, and other acquiring a competitor,
M&A.
whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
This business model is an excellent point of focus for anybody.
Yeah. I call it a reality check, you know.
Coach calls it a reality
Before
check.
you really start to dig in, and is there any value in going down this road any further and starting, as I say, to invest more and more money, before you actually introduce the thing?
We're basing these 2 episodes on the Barringer, what's called the Barringer Ireland business model. That's part of a course. The coach actually teaches a course that incorporates this model along with a lot of other subjects. But the coach is very familiar with this, and he's a big believer that this model is a good one to provide direction. Mm-hmm. And the model consists of 4 principal sections called the core strategy, the resources, the financials, and operations.
Right.
Now, in episode 1, we talked about core strategy and resources. However, with regard to resources, I forgot in the last episode to get you to comment on key assets as part of resources. Would you help us out? The key assets: physical, financial, intellectual, human.
Absolutely. We talk about financial. The reason you're going to eventually write a business plan based on this business model that we're talking about now is because it's going to require a certain amount of money to introduce this new business or this new product. The human resources, do you have the capabilities? Are you good at writing software, but you really need somebody that can help you with the marketing or the sales piece? You have to say, okay, I'm going to need some other members of the team that have core competencies that I may not have, but are going to be necessary to bring this to fruition. Do I need some machinery that I'm going to have to buy to make a particular product? I mean, again, to use the example of a restaurant, because that's the ubiquitous one, we talk about, you're going to need space someplace. You're going to lease some space. You're going to build out a restaurant in there. You're going to have to put in a stove and sinks and grease traps. And what are the resources that you're going to have to put together to actually get this business off the ground? And of course, what you're trying to do is, we talk about it all the time, is create a brand identity. Mm-hmm. And well, that does take time. And are you coming out with a brand new product and you actually can patent it? That gives you 14 to 20 years of protection. Be the only one, hopefully, in the market that's going to make it. You don't have enough money to do this. You're going to have to get some money from a bank, or you're going to have to need maybe some investors. These are all the type of resources that you're going to have to think about very early stage before you go and actually jump in and say, okay, let's do this.
Intellectual assets, like contained in a patent.
Absolutely.
That's a biggie. Or trademark.
Yep.
A copyright. so-called trade secrets, a secret sauce.
Sure.
Brand, if there is a brand reputation, of course, if it's a startup, there is no brand recognition.
Right, but you're already in business. You have a brand reputation. Your brand represents something to your market, and you want to make sure you're consistent with, the experience that future customer is going to have with your brand.
Okay, so listen, guys, on our building our business model, core strategy, resources, financials, operations. So we've now talked about the core strategy and the resources. We're going to move on to financials, which is one of your favorite topics.
Absolutely.
Would be the third business component of the business model. And Coach, let's start talking about financials.
Well, how are you going to make money? I mean, it's just that simple a question. How do you earn money? That's what you're concerned about. We've talked about creating value for the marketplace. Well, now you got to deliver that value and capture that value. And how are you going to deliver and capture the value you have created for the market? How are you going to actually make money? What is your revenue stream? Where's it going to come from?
But Coach, we're talking about exactly, not conceptual.
No, we're getting down to real numbers. No, numbers. Numbers. You got to put a number on a piece of paper. If you're buying a business, certainly you're going to build your numbers off of what the business has already done. You're going to do something hopefully different and better and raise, but you've got something to build on. But even if you're starting a brand new business, you should put some numbers down. Is that going to happen? Probably not. But you should look at it and say, I think based on the input I put here, that I'm going to be able to generate this much revenue monthly, annually, and this is what it's going to cost me to do it, and I should be making a salary and a profit for taking the risk of doing this thing.
By the way, in that building that information is going to be one of your very favorite topics, which is something that's more important than your mother.
CFIMITYM. If you've looked up Fox Robbins Business Show, you see me, I've become famous like Abraham Lincoln is famous for having said, you can please some of the people all the time, you can please all the people some of the time, but you can't please all the people all the time. Everybody says that's Abraham Lincoln. It's actually John Lygate, which was like a 17th century philosopher. He was merely quoting it, but everything said Lincoln. Everybody in the world here, in my consulting world, thinks I developed CFIMITYN. I didn't. I stole it. I stole it at the MIT Enterprise Forum when the director put up there, cash flow is more important than your mother. Okay? And now it's accredited to me unfairly, which is fine with me, but it is. I mean, it sustains your business as cash.
That's in here, which is how much money am I going to bring in?
Yep.
And especially when?
Cash flow is a matter of time. Yeah.
When?
Is coming in.
WHEN, when?
Yeah.
Is cash flow.
That's right. And then when it's, like I always say, the gazintas and the gazautas. And the gazintas got to be bigger than the gazautas, and the gazintas got to come in somewhere, even if it's not in sales, before the gazautas go out.
I want to ask you about what's called revenue streams. Like little rivulets coming into the company. Revenue streams, which is deals with the ways you make money. Can you talk to us about that?
Well, like again, you stick with a restaurant, their basic revenue stream would be the sale of food. Right? They deliver it to you on a plate, you eat it. Well, they could have other revenue streams. They may have a bar. They may have a bar that gives them a good revenue stream, which is a big markup in the restaurant business. They may get into catering. They may be weddings. There's all other potential revenue streams. They may start taking their secret sauce that you talk about and start to sell it to some other local retail shops and jar it and sell it there. So you got to think about, well, exactly where's my money coming in? What value am I creating? How am I going to deliver that value? And then how am I going to capture that? In value, I mean, it's money.
If you guys watching, as you know, you know yourself in your own experience. You go to a barbecue shop and they also sell sauce.
Exactly. They sell.
You go to a restaurant and they have a selling pies.
You go to the Red Sox baseball game and you can get a famous chowder there. You know, I mean, you can go into a Stop and Shop and buy their chowder frozen. You know, it's a restaurant chain. It's a great restaurant chain. I'm talking about Legal Seafoods. I guess I can name them, but they're not clients of mine. I can't name clients. They're not a client. They're a big company. But you go to a baseball game and they're selling legal seafood chowder.
Right.
I used to go to a baseball game, get a hot dog. I mean, now you can get pizza, hot dog. I mean, you can get everything at a baseball game, including, of course, in Boston, you know, clam chowder. You know, it's got to be.
Right.
You know?
Or even, you know, how many times you've been to a restaurant and you go out front at the front counter and you buy a T-shirt with the restaurant name
Even a
on it,
T-shirt, right?
You know, baseball
Absolutely,
cap
a little
like
baseball
that.
cap with the logo.
Revenue stream.
All revenue streams brings money into the company.
Also advertising.
You bet. They your hat, your T-shirt on, they're helping you create a strong brand identity, hopefully.
And part of the financing, I want you to talk to us about cost structure. And all I can say, you know, I know you're going to accuse me of being simplistic, but you're in business. Know your cost. And I say that because you could walk into 100 businesses, and I'm telling you, 90% of those will say, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. What's your cost? I don't know.
Yeah. What's your overhead? My what?
Yeah.
What do you mean, my rent? Well, that's one of your overheads. Yeah. What else? You know? I mean, again, we teach it, you know, basically there's two types of cost to a business at its core. There's overhead and there's variable costs. In other words, fixed costs and variable costs. Overhead, fixed costs would be rent. Right. It's, you know, your rent's $2,000 a month. It's every month. Whether you sell 50,000 or 75,000, your rent probably remains the same for the same space. Your light bill probably stays the same. Now, some overhead things are adjustable based on sales, like number of employees and that type of thing, but it's still overhead, right? Now, there's variable cost. If I make a product, all right, then my variable cost would be if I sell eyeglasses and they cost me $1 a piece, and I sell 100 pair, then my cost that month were $100. Mm-hmm. If I sold 1,000, it's $1,000 cost of sold. So that varies. So two basic types of cost of business: there's overhead, fixed costs, and I should say, there's variable costs. Mm-hmm. So you've got to account for all those things. One of the things I see people miss all the time is they buy a product that comes in and they're not picking up the freight. You know, if it's not freight free, freight on FOB, you know, the customer, if it's FOB factory, they miss a lot of those little costs. Or maybe they've got people out on the road delivering products and they're not taking advantage of the IRS's going to be 58 cents a mile this year in 2019. Well, shame on you. The IRS is not going to call you up and say, gee, you missed all your deductions, right? But guarantee you, they're not going to do that.
I tell you, cost, you know, I had experience in the manufacturing industry, and I'm telling you, we had to fight, kick, and scratch and bite, you know, let's say to get, you know, 10% to the bottom line. Yeah. That may not sound like a lot. Actually,
that's a pretty good bottom line.
I've heard in the, like the gigantic, you know, the supermarket industry, gigantic supermarket industry, getting 3% of the bottom line is a fight. Right. But I always use a hunger, you know, to be in the perfume business.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's 8,000%.
A little bottle, you know, that cost me, you know, $10, and I sold it for 100.
That's right. Because your name.
I used to hunger after that.
Because your name is, you know, L'Oreal or whatever. I don't know. I don't use perfume.
Now, speaking of financing, there's financing and funding. So the business model, you know, needs financing, and there'll be 3 categories of costs in there: capital cost, one-time expenses, and ramp-up expenses. So talk to us about that.
Oh, capital cost, naturally, if I'd have to buy a piece of equipment, that's capital cost. If I need a new whiz-bang machine, it's going to cost me $800,000. That's a capital expense. Right. If I need to buy a building, that's a capital expense. If I'm going to rent space, naturally, that's not a capital expense. One-time expenses could be I'm going to rent space and I'm going to put my restaurant in there, and I have to paint the walls and put up a new ceiling and put down new floors and, that type of thing. Those leasehold improvements are one-time expenses. Buying the benches and the seats and the tables and the cash register, those are capital expenses.
Right. Okay, ramping up. Most businesses incur costs before they earn revenue. You got to spend money to make money.
Absolutely, you got to invest money to make that money, right? And you got to count for all those costs, and you better not miss anything, because a lot of companies will start up and they just didn't start with enough cash to really get to the point where they need to be.
So you got to build this into your business model.
Exactly.
Also, I'm continuing on the financial end. Is like, where's it coming from?
Where's the money going to come?
Yeah.
I need $100,000 to get this business started. Where am I going to get it?
Well,
you know what? I got 30,000. I'm willing to invest. And any banker or any angel wants to make sure you're going to put your money up to show that you're serious about starting the business.
Right.
And then, maybe I got to borrow the 70,000 from a lender, and therefore, okay, I got to write a business plan, but I'm doing a business model right now.
So you may have some money yourself, maybe.
You better have.
Uh,
Unless somebody's got to put up the money. A bank is not going to loan you 100% of the money. I've said this many, many times. They're not going to loan you 100%. They might do that for Bill Gates. They might.
There might be such a thing that whatever your business is like, that you're making money from day one, if that were possible.
Sometimes it is. Most of the time, it's not.
Right.
Yeah.
But the business model would indicate the appropriate amount of funding.
Yep.
How much funding?
How much money is it going to take
And
to get
when?
this thing started, and to a break even, and to the profitability
And where
stage?
where it's coming
Yeah,
from.
the first 3 months you might not make a profit. The first month you're going to do 10 grand of sales, 20 grand, then you're finally hitting 30 grand, which is your break even, and then it goes up from there, and now you're starting to make money.
I mean, there are those watching the show. You say, well, I need money. I go to a bank.
Sure.
Wrong.
No, they can go to a bank, but they ain't going to give them 100% of the money. Right?
The banks are not risk capital.
That's not risk, no.
They're tight as a drum and very conservative, and you don't have any operating history. You don't. Maybe you
have no experience.
Maybe you have assets. Maybe you don't.
Yeah, you better have assets.
You don't. You walk into the bank and say, give me $100,000. No, you got to be crazy.
Yeah, they're not going to do it.
People do that.
You know what? I kid banks. I say, you're not in the risk business. I say that to bankers all the time. Sometimes they get a little upset. I say, you're not. But to tell you the truth, at 5 or 6%, you can't be in the risk business. The people that are in the risk business are the investors, the angel investors, but they want 30% on their money. They want to make sure that after 2 or 3 years, their money's earned 30% because they are taking a risk. So a bank, you're taking the risk because you got to pay them back every month. Like Bob Hope said facetiously 50 years ago, a bank's where you go to borrow money if you don't need it. And to some degree, that's true. So like I say, the banks, let's face it, that's where most people go to start a small business. But you've got to show the bank how you're going to pay them back. That comes from a full-blown business plan. Right now, we're just talking about a reality check. Does this thing look like it's going to work?
Well, you have to understand that there is a marvelous facility called the SBA, the Small Business Administration.
Yep.
They don't loan money. They won't give you a dime.
Right.
Not even one dime.
Yeah.
But what they will give you, if you convince them that you have your business model.
Yep.
And you have specific answers to their questions.
Right.
And you convince them that you've got a good and sound idea.
A viable
they will provide you with a guarantee to then go to the bank, and the bank knows that they have 50, 60, 70% backing
from the SBA
on that deal.
And that minimizes the risk that the lender is taking. And that's the whole idea behind the SBA guarantee. And they guarantee that to the bank, not to you.
Now you walk into the bank, you've got reason on your side.
Well, the banker is going to get the SBA guarantee anyway.
Yeah.
Don't forget, it's not the individual that gets the guarantee. It's the bank that's saying, I'm going to loan this person $100,000, but the SBA is going back half of this.
Yeah.
I'm really only on the hook of the bank $50,000. Yeah, I can take that risk. Right.
Based on that business plan that you showed to the SBA.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, the bank's going to show to the SBA.
Yeah. Right. Bank shows to the SBA. Or you're getting technical on me here.
Right.
Okay, Coach, we're going to move on to the final. We got to cover the final, the fourth leg on this stool. Refer you guys back to this business model, the Barringer Ireland business model: core strategy, resources, financials, which we just talked about,
Yep.
and now operations.
Yep.
And I'm going to ask you about operations. The fourth quadrant of the business model, operations. This is that the operations are what drives your business model.
Yep.
So talk to us about that.
Well, the operations are, how do I create value? And then how do I deliver that value to the customer? He has to focus on, am I going to make this thing? Am I going to just outsource it? I'm going to use some subcontractors to make some parts and bring it in here, and then I'm going to make this thing, and then I'm going to sell it. Is it, of course, that begs the question, is it a physical product that you're selling, or is it a service that you're selling? Mm-hmm. You know, if you're selling a service, then who's delivering that service becomes a very important, you know, if you have a consulting company and you're a brilliant consultant, well, there's only one you. And if you're going to start to send some other people in your firm to that customer or client, then those people are representing your firm. You got to make sure they're properly trained and they're capable of representing your brand correctly. You know, this is a huge, huge decision you got to make. The Marcus Lemonis talks about people, product, and process. Well, what we're talking about here is process. Yeah. The people and the process that's going in to give the customer what they need and want.
If any of you guys is sitting there wondering, you wonder what operations are, it's very simple. You have your shop, you walk in, you open the door, you turn on the light, you flip the little sign that says open, and the next question is, what are you going to do?
What are you going to value?
Tell me what you're going to do.
I'm going to walk in the kitchen, I'm going to take the fresh stuff I just bought yesterday, and I'm going to cook it in a certain way with my own recipes. I'm going to put it on a nice plate, nice presentation. I'm going to give it to a waitress, and now she's going to take it out.
Did you say you were going to turn on the stove?
Yeah. I wouldn't even know how to turn on a stove. Not even allowed in the kitchen. I started a fire with bacon grease one morning. Not allowed in the kitchen anymore.
Yeah. But what do you turn on the light, you walk in the business. Yeah. What are you going to do?
What happens next?
And that's
step
operations.
by step. What happens next? Yep.
And day-to-day, that's the day-to-day heartbeat of the company.
Yep.
And in the operations includes the product and service, the production.
Yep.
Which you've just addressed. You
Yep.
focus on how the products are made.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
And what else in-house are you going to produce products? Yes or no?
You're going to outsource it?
Is it going to be in-house? Are you going to have outside subcontractors?
My distribution company made nothing. I had locations, I had people, and all my inventory came from manufacturers of electrical products. Wire, pipe, lights, whatever it is. Right? Circuit breakers, transformers. I just bought stuff and redistributed it in the proper, order. But we didn't actually make anything. But I had to have those suppliers and work with those suppliers to get my stuff. That was my operation. And then I had to have people, and I had warehouses, and I had to heat the place, and et cetera, et cetera. And I had to have trucks to deliver the stuff to the contractors that needed it on the job.
Right. So production of the product or service.
Yep.
And channels. Yep. What's channels?
Distribution. I was a channel.
Is that something full of water, or what is that?
No, well, it is. That's the English channel. Yeah. No, channels. How do you get your product? That's the how do I get the product or service to the customer? That's create value, deliver value. I mean, Amazon is nothing more than a solver of the place issue. They don't make anything.
No.
They don't make a thing. They just connect the customer to somebody that makes it. They're distributors, basically. No. And you go online and you order pretty much anything you want, and they ship an order to the factory, and the factory ships it to you, or they've got it in stock and they ship it to you. But they just solve the product, price, place, promotion as marketing. They're just solving the place issue or the distribution. And channels could be, they are a channel by which if I make a product, I can ship it through Amazon.
Right. And The next element of operations, Coach, might be key partners.
Yep.
The final element of a firm's business model is key partners.
Yep.
So talk to us like,
Well, startups don't have the resources to do everything, that they need to do. I mean, you have to figure out what is it that you have the resources, both in money and space and people, machinery, whatever it is, and then you may need some key partners as far as manufacturers bringing. I mean, a restaurant doesn't grow the food; they don't have the pigs. Their key partners would be the restaurant suppliers.
Right.
Those are very important partners for them.
Take a look at this. Certain types are mentioned here in the Barringer Ireland model.
Yep.
Joint venture, network, consortium, strategic alliance, trade association.
Yep.
That's a lot of big words.
Yeah.
Joint venture. That's between two firms.
That's
pooling.
between two. These are bigger companies. We're talking about a little restaurant. I mean, that's something else, a small business, the micro business, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
But you might have a company and you can do a certain thing, and there's another company and you want to go into this new market and you need this key partner, and you could either buy the company, or you could merge with the company, or you could just go as a partnership, create a third company. Right. But you need what they bring to the table to go after this market with this new product or service. And those are key partners you have to consider. Like I say, a key partner in even a micro business, like a restaurant, would be your restaurant, your food suppliers, and your liquor supplier. Those are key partners for you.
So you guys listen to this. The coach is talking about building a business model, about hitting all the key points.
All of them. Yeah.
And I mean specifically, no fluff, no BS.
This business model can really be filled out in a few days. You're not going to write a business plan in a few days, believe me. It's going to take a lot longer than that.
But this can be done. It leads you on.
It leads you to hey, you know what?
These answers.
I have an opportunity here. I really think I have a viable opportunity. And so I'm going to now put some meat. This is just the bones, the skeleton. Yeah. Now I'm going to start to put some meat on it, put the plan together, start to find out who are these key partners, who are the key employees, how much money do I really need, what do I project that my sales and revenues and costs are going to be. Now you can start to really dig in and break it down. And that's what the lender wants, and that's what the angel investor wants to see.
All right. Thank you, Coach. We'll wrap it up on that. That's this episode 2 of 2 episodes on building a business model.
Yep.
And thank you for watching. This is the Fox Robbins Business Show. We have all of our episodes are uploaded to YouTube. You just go to YouTube on the front page. You in the search box type in Fox Robbins, FOXROBBINS, one single word, and click on it. And there's a whole library. Pick the topics that are of current interest, and go from there. And we will see you guys next time.